Hi guys, if you're just joining me. So it is a pretty windy day here. I do have a shield up that should hopefully block out some of the wind, but if it's too loud, you guys let me know and I can just go into the barn. I'll be heading there in just a minute. So I'm here on our Matriarchs and Maidens farm. This is the winter home of our Broodmare band. And we're here with a special member of the band. But it is very windy out here. This is the Wildcat Speed. And the Wildcat Speed is the dam of Lady Aurelia. Is a champion overseas. She was the Cartier Award winner. She was a champion 2-year-old filly. She won at Royal Ascot 2 years in a row. Her dam to Wildcat Speed. She's in foal to Justify for next year. So I'm going to move in out of the wind because it's quite strong out here. So you guys can hear me a little better once I'm in the barn. So we were just visiting with the Wildcat Speed, and we're going to look ahead to some of the foals that we'll be expecting in 2021. I mentioned the Wildcat is in foal to Justify. We'll see who some of her compatriots are in foal to here. So it seems like it's a little early to be looking ahead for our next foaling season, but horses have an 11-month gestation period. So when we are breeding, so we have broodmares, we produce foals. So we're almost always constantly looking forward to the next season. And with our mares, that process starts when they go to the breeding shed. So you can see as we go by, you'll see the stall cards for each of the mares that are in this barn. And there's some information. So this is her sire. She's by Pulpit. She's out of Grand Pauline, born in 2012. This is Keen Pauline. And Keen Pauline, if you know her, she raced in Stone Street Stables and she won the Black-Eyed Susan Stakes. And she is in foal to Medaglia d'Oro. And we can see this date over here is her LCD, what we call her last cover date. So that is the last date that she visited Medaglia d'Oro. And so at Stone Street, we have stallions that we're affiliated with, like Good Magic and Curlin. We'll see a few mares in foal to those stallions, but we don't stand any stallions on our properties. So when these mares are ready to be bred, they will travel to those stallion farms. And so that will be recorded as their last cover date. And they'll come back to the farm, and we can start doing ultrasounds to check if they're in foal 2 weeks later. And if they are, then we record that last cover date and we can count forward 11 months and estimate when she's going to have her foal in 2021. So this is Bella Jolie. You will most likely know her as the dam of Run Happy, who's a champion sprinter, and he won over at the Breeders' Cup. Last time it was at Keeneland before this year. So all of these mares you'll see have last cover dates that are very close to one another. We'll go on to the next mare. So here we have Pay Lady in foal to Street Sense. Her last cover date was just 2 weeks prior to Bella Jolie. So all these mares, if we count forward those 11 months of the average equine gestation period, these mares will all foal around April of next year. So they've been grouped together here on this farm, and they'll stay in this group as they travel to our nursery farm, and that's where they'll have their foals. See Majestically, another mare that's in this group here. And so sorry, that was squeakier than I thought it would be. If you've tuned in for any of our previous virtual tours, you've seen the stalls at our nursery farm, and you compare those to the stalls that we have here on this farm. While they are very lovely, they're not nearly as large. The stalls on the nursery farm are 16 by 16 foot. And so what that allows us to do is have the mares foal out in their stalls. And in addition to the stall size on that farm, the main draw for having our mares foal out at our nursery property is just down the road, is that it is closest to some of the best equine clinics in the world. So if for whatever reason we had to have a mare or foal go to the vet, she can be on the van and to the vet within 10 minutes. And so it's much more convenient for them because, of course, their health and happiness is always going to be our first priority. And see Spring Party here, and Foal to Medaglia d'Oro as well. And Spring Party is the dam of Marceau. So this is going to be a half sibling to that grade 3 winner. You come down. So these mares are out in the paddock that we saw a little earlier. Coral Sun here is in foal to Curlin, as I mentioned. So Curlin raced in Sun Street Stables, and he's now standing over at Hillendale, along with Cantharos, McLean's Music, and Good Magic, who are some of our other affiliate stallions. These mares are all out in that paddock, along with the Wildcat Speed, and she was just the one that decided that wanted to come and say hello to us. So the paddock is 100 acres. I'm trying to go and show you all without the wind just blasting straight into the microphone. So Wildcat was the only one we could see because the others were all over the cusp of the hill there. So everywhere, this is all their paddock. And they spend the majority of their time in their paddock. They really only come up into the barn very briefly, a few every other day or so. For the most part, they'll be fed and checked out in their paddocks. And they'll come in to their stalls and get a little bit of grain. If they had any supplements that they need, they'll get those as well. And we are constantly adding new mares to our broodmare band. So you want to have new blood come in, new specialities. You know, we don't have all mares that were sprinters on the track, nor all mares that raced on one particular surface. So Out for a Spin is a horse that she'll be having her first foal next year via Curlin. She won the Grade 1 Ashland Stakes over at Keeneland. Yes, we are on the Matriarchs and Maidens Farm Salvatore. And Sassy Image, I saw her a little earlier. She's much further on in the paddock. At the end, I can take a drive and see if I can spot some of these mares, so long as the wind isn't too brutal. So you can see Sassy Image here is in foal to Good Magic. So Good Magic's first foals were born this year. We had several that are very lovely. We had some that have gone through the sales ring. They'll be debuting at the yearling sales next year. And Sassy Image was a grade 1 sprinter on the track, grade 1 winning sprinter on the track. We have Conquest Serenade in foal to More Than Ready. So because these mares are due around April, they'll be some of the last to travel over to our nursery farm. We've actually had the first group went over this morning. And here's the Wildcat. We saw her out in the paddock just a little while ago. And foal to Justify. So it's obviously Justify. He was an incredible racehorse, the Triple Crown winner, but he also has the distinction of he was by Scat Daddy, who of course is no longer with us. And Lady Aurelia, who I mentioned earlier, is out of Wildcat Speed as well. And she was by Scat Daddy. So we're unable to breed to Scat Daddy because he's passed on, but you have a Triple Crown winning son by that wonderful sire. So that'll be a foal to watch out for in the future. And with these foals, if you're watching any of our previous streams, and you see a foal that you think to yourself like, oh, I want to know more about that horse once it gets to the racetrack, all you have to do is remember the year that they were born and their dam's name, and you can plug that into Equibase, and it will pop up with the horse's name, so you can follow them on in their racing career. We have Core in foal to Ghost Zapper, one of many foreign horses that we have in our broodmare band. So we've diversified quite a bit. We have Time for Roses and Bounding, who hail from Australia, as well as we just purchased a mare named Houtzen to come and join the broodmare band. As well as we have mares from Puerto Rico. Wildcat Speed was a champion in Puerto Rico. And we also have Hillaby, who is a champion in Canada. And the last card in this barn, this is Princess Julia. So Princess Julia is a daughter of Folklore, who is a champion 2-year-old filly on the racetrack. And Princess Julia, she is in the family of Contrail, who is the Japanese Triple Crown winner. His dam is Princess Julia's half-sister. She's in foal to More Than Ready for next year. My plan was to take a walk here and hopefully the wind will hold out. But again, like I said, if it gets to be too loud, just let me know and I can hop in my car. So the first group of mares have already transferred over to the nursery farm. Those are the mares that are due in January and February. And actually, I'm going to head to my car now before before I let the wind drown out anything I'm going to say. So the January and February mares, those that are due in those months, have already traveled over to the nursery farm. And once they're on the nursery farm, their schedule changes a little bit. So rather than spending most of their time out in the paddock, as these mares are doing now, they will stay up in the barn overnight so we can monitor them for any signs of foaling. Of course, they've still got about 2 months out before their due dates. We still keep an eye on them just in case. And I had someone ask in a previous tour a question that brought something up that I've never mentioned before. So with the breeding shed opening in February, let me get into the car. So, someone asked in my last tour if we ever worry about foals being born before January, because thoroughbreds share that January 1st birthday. And the answer is no. So that's by design. So we know the horses are in foal for 11 months. So in keeping that in mind, the breeding sheds don't open until February, around Valentine's Day. It's very fitting. And so that way we don't have to worry about any foals being born too early, because a mare that was bred in February will have her foal in the middle of January. So we're never too concerned about that. I'll drive down this way. We'll see if we can spot some of the mares. They're in that barn. Of course, the paddocks here are pretty large. I mentioned the one that the mares in that barn share is 100 acres. And the paddocks at our nursery farm are varying sizes. We have some that are a little on the smaller side. That is because we have foals there. And we want to have our foals slowly mature and graduate to the larger paddocks over time. So they'll start in medium-sized paddocks before they go into paddocks that can be between 20 to 30 acres. And because all of the mares have been arranged by their expected foaling dates, when they have their foals, all the foals are in the same developmental stages. And so they're all around the same size. And they are able to go out into paddocks together. And the foals will meet another mare and foal pair just a few days after they're born. And they'll slowly graduate to a big group with all of the mares and foals in their barn. And even once they are weaned, they will stay in those groups. And so that way they have comfort in knowing that they're in the same group of horses that they've known since day one. Just one way that we make that process a little easier for them. So those mares were too far for me to walk down and go and see them. I'll walk into this barn here and give you all some time for questions if you have them. So don't worry if you're just tuning in. We save all of our tours, so you'll be able to go back and visit this tour at a later date, as well as the tours that we've done previously. So, it's very quiet in here. This is the barn that our mares shared before they moved over to the nursery. So we'll clean this barn out and power wash all the stalls to get it ready for next year. So do you all have any questions as I walk through? I hope the audio was good for you all today. As I mentioned, it's pretty strong wind out there. So you guys got to see a sneak peek of some of the foals that we're expecting in 2021. And in the future, we'll return to the nursery farm. We'll see some of our mares that are in foal. Then I can welcome you all back in 2021 for the foaling season. We can see those foals that we've learned about today. If you have any questions or if there's something that I didn't get to, you were curious about, please leave a comment. My name is Hillary, so if you say, hey Hillary, I was wondering about this, I'll go through and answer your comments. I mentioned we will save this tour to our Facebook page. I'll post it to our YouTube channel as well. That way you can go and revisit. And I encourage you guys to check out the other tours that we've done in our series and learn more about our operation. And thank you all so much for joining me today. Salvatore asked, what else do I do on the farm besides tours? I'm the marketing assistant here. So I do a lot of tours, social media. The tours, of course, are my favorite part. I love taking you guys around and showing you our horses. So if you all don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.